What's up, everybody? Hello. Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
And this is a Hustling Sideways bonus episode
Welcome.
week.
Yes.
So, normally, when Jim and I don't have guests, we talk about things that are going on in our side hustles. Mm-hmm. And today is no different from that.
That's right.
And much like normal...
Keeping on theme for the last 4 years, yeah.
Much like normal, we've also come up with this idea as we're like 10 minutes away from recording.
I always thinking about like, what is the thing I'm going through at the moment? And then I'm usually like, should we talk about that?
I had a really good one for us this week.
And you
totally
forgot
lost.
Yeah, you forgot.
Totally gone.
Which is where I came in. So we're going to talk today about adapting either your message or your style depending on the audience. So, and what I mean by that is like, for both of us, we have a thing that we do. Mm-hmm. I speak to students. You do 1,000 events, media, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, like, when we find ourselves in situations that are irregular from what we're used to, we have to adapt, and that's the thing. So I've had moments where I've spoken to parents before, and my thing is not always applicable to parents, you know.
Right.
So I really had to I'm going to call it calm down and like go out and just give a talk and not be like when I say get it, like I'm not shouting in their face. That's just a little bit different. So parents were different, and then I'm working on a talk in August of this year. It's going to be more of a workshop. So it's not really a keynote, it's more of a workshop. So I'm taking elements of something I do in my keynote and an element of what I do in like a breakout and combining them. And it's going to take a little while, but that's something that I'm doing. So like you have to be able to adapt not only for the audience that you're with, but also the activity that you do depending on what that group needs. And goals change all the time, and I as I think too, like last year I spoke at Lambeau Field where the Bears don't play. Wait,
hang on. I want to stop for a second. You said skulls change? Skulls?
Goals.
Oh, okay.
And skulls also probably changed.
Skulls probably changed too, but okay, never mind.
Thing. But so I had to go there, and I knew that I was talking to a bunch of union workers, and I was like, my talk that I usually give is
probably not going to make them do the Cupid shuffle.
That's right. So I wrote a new one. I wrote a whole new one for that day. It was about building culture. So you just have to like learn to grow and adapt. So for example, like now, I'm a keynote speaker, but I'm also a writer. Yeah. And I've had to learn how to write a new thing, if that's what it comes down to. So I enjoy that though. I like the challenge. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love doing the thing I'm good at, which is my normal keynote and going. That doesn't take that much prep. I just go do it. This, when you get signed on to do something else, like you have to really work at it. And like, the culture one took me nearly a month of like a couple weekend work to like finally get it down. That's time. That's time that, you may not have and you gotta create, but yeah, I enjoy that because I think like you have to get to know your audience really well and know what their wants and needs are, right? And then form or adapt a speech or whatever it might be based on that. So I've had a good amount of experience. I would say 80% of what I do, maybe 75% of what I do is pretty rinse and repeat. Mm-hmm. 25 is where I have to really dig deep and find out what that group needs.
Yeah, and when you're writing something new, you also have to refine that to make it into something that feels like you too.
Exactly.
When you're saying,
it's got to be my own flair to it and be true to my style, but like a little bit different than the message I would normally give.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So for me, on my side of things, I've definitely had to recreate the voice of what breaking and entering is. But especially where I've really noticed it is because there's so many different pockets of the music scene, right? Mm-hmm. Like what appeals to the indie rock guys is not going to appeal to the YouTube hip hop kids, And so how do you make things that doesn't feel like code switching, but it feels like something that is like still going to feel authentic and something they're going to resonate with? And how do you meld all of that together into one just unified voice of like go Milwaukee music, which is kind of our thing. Yeah.
How do you do that?
For me, for social media, it is totally like the, learning the lingo and learning like how far can I go before it doesn't sound like me? You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll type a draft out of something, or even if it's writing a post about somebody and I'll use some kind of phrase in there where I'm like, you know what, this just doesn't feel like something I would end up saying, and I feel like I can now speak pretty universally to that. There is definitely times where I've gone too far one way or too far another where I'm like, that doesn't sound like me. You know what I mean? Like when I ultimately read that stuff,
you could tell,
back,
right? You're like, that's not my own flair. My own style.
And you never want to get accused of like code switching or something that like that, where you're like, well, this doesn't sound like, a 34-year-old white dude wrote it. Right?
Especially when you've built a brand and you've worked really hard at it. Yeah. Like it should sound like the thing that you're trying to do.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah. And the other part that I've noticed that too for switching for social though is, or changing, and adapting is, for my own personal branding, like doing Facebook versus Instagram and Threads and all of that versus LinkedIn, and like being able to create content, because I used to just put a blanket like piece of content out across everything, and I knew like deep down I knew that was not the most effective way of communicating, but it was the easiest at the time.
You could get it done.
Now I am definitely like writing LinkedIn posts for the sake of like, with the intent of being business Alan, you know, as opposed to Facebook Alan is a little bit different.
It's gotta happen.
You know, Threads and Bluesky, because you just consume these things different ways, or you're like, you know, the amount of attention you give a post on LinkedIn versus the amount of attention you give on like, let's say an Instagram or TikTok, where you just scroll up to the next thing, right?
It's true. Yeah. So, people use those mediums for different things too. So what are they looking to find? And you have to match what they're looking to find. That's a good point.
Yeah. So it is something that definitely is an acquired thing, and like something I've known for a while, but now I'm really putting it into practice and seeing the results from it.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Adapting has definitely been something that's been super beneficial for what I'm doing.
I think that takes a while too, because like people work so hard at their craft and what their passion is, and then come up with that thing. Right. Once you get good at that, then you could be like, oh, like because you can't think about what you can change while you're working on it.
Right. And
once
you almost
get it down.
You almost put the blinders on a little bit of like, this is how it's going to be. This is my voice. This is what would be me. Yeah. But then like you don't realize like, okay, well, what if it isn't effective?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, how are you going to switch it? And you always have to be agile. I mean, I've had times, I talked about it here before, where someone goes before me and says the thing I want to say. And I'm like, I got to change that. You know,
it's like a comedian stealing your joke.
Yeah. Really, you know, and it happens more often than people think. Cause like, you know, you just find yourself in places and someone says something that's so like similar to what you're about to say. And it's like, well, either I double down or I say something else. Or,
that's that other keynote speaker named Lim Jub that was really getting in your way.
Really just messes me up every time I see that guy. Yeah.
Being authentically yourself versus being authentically you.
Yeah, something about this feels similar.
Yeah. It's like Bizarro World, Jim.
Oh, gosh.
So we want to know, how do you adapt? How do you change your voice while still being yourself? How do you change your approach while you're still being yourself? And what do you do to kind of adapt? So
that's a great question.
Yeah, if there are, if there's a comment section wherever you're checking this out, make sure you comment and let us know. In the meantime, we're the Hustling Sideways podcast. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We are on Instagram, TikTok, all of the things. Just look for Hustling Sideways and you'll find us. In the meantime, if you want to be a guest on the show, you can send us an email. It is hustlingsideways@gmail.com, or fill out the Instagram comment form thing that we have. As well. I had a more sweet name for it, but do that.
I kind of like the name you just came out, Instagram comment thing bio. Yeah, do that.
It's in our Instagram bio. In the meantime, Jim,
keep on hustling.
We'll see you next week.
Peace.